What is going on, everybody? AJ Riley with Eric Vincent, your two favorite Detroit sports hosts for your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box. We got a great show for you tonight, talking a little bit more about our man that we talked about last night on the live, Will Anderson Jr. Here's the deal. Over the next 5 shows, we have 5 shows left before draft night, which is 16 days away now. We're going to be breaking down the top 5 prospects we feel are the Detroit Lions pick at number 6. It could potentially be Will Anderson. He's number 1 on the list for a reason. So tonight, we're going to deep dive him a little bit more than we did on the live last night. If you want to check out the live, make sure you get over to YouTube. But Eric, Will Anderson in Honolulu blue. I don't even care if he wears 31 and has to take it from Kirby Joseph. What makes Will Anderson a top draft prospect in 2023? We have both said that he's the best prospect in this draft.
100% he is.
Why?
He is. We agree as well that there's also a lot of good talent, a lot of high-end talent in this draft. I'm sure you would agree with this point as well, that he is, I think, the only one, at least in the top 10 or the top 5, that has the best chance of being dominant at his position. Like, I think Stroud may be good, Bryce Young may be good, Jalen Carter may pan out to be pretty good at some point, but I think Will Anderson is the best odds-on draft prospect that can be dominant at his position, especially considering what he does. As an edge rusher, he is so skilled, so powerful, and he's just been a walking embodiment of it his entire career. I mean, dominated at Alabama. I mean, second year, 17 and a half sacks. Didn't slow down at all with the dominance he had this past season with 10. He was all over the place. He would be a absolute home run of a selection. It's going to take some work if the Lions are interested, but just as a firm prospect, he's easily, without question, the best player in his draft class.
He is, hands down, the best player. 83.6 PFF grade in 2022, 685 snaps, 14 sacks, not snacks, 14 snacks. I'm sure he had more than 14 snacks. Yeah, right. 14 sacks. And then what's interesting, too, is he also had multiple alignments along the defensive line. Now, there weren't many. Like in the A gap, for instance, I think he only had like 7 alignments in the A gap. But he did have a decent amount in the B gap and graded out at an 80.9. Then he also lined up over the tackle and then outside the tackle. But what this guy is he's versatile. According to the PFF draft guide, he is an every down back, like an every down edge.
Yes.
And this is like the bookend that you need. It's absolutely the bookend that you need with Aiden Hutchinson. Yes. It's purely a dream at this point. It would be fantastic, and I feel like I would be in heaven should this be drafted this way. But I mean, when you're talking about a guy who is legitimately considered by the NFL Draft Combine profile prospect as Pro Bowl talent, has a 7.02 prospect grade. That's pretty significant.
And we kind of talked about it on the live yesterday, and I wanted to peel back on it a little bit more. To me, when you watch him, especially with his position, like when you see the DNs that have come out recently, like the guys like Chase Young, even if you look at other guys like Brian Arakpo, Jadeveon Clowney, those dudes are just like built different than what Will Anderson looks like. To me, he kind of has that. We kind of talked about Aaron Donald's elusiveness in terms of what he brought, because obviously he's dominant in his position, but he was drafted 13th for a reason, or 14th for a reason. So it's not really that, he jumps off the screen in terms of physical stature, but once the whistle goes off, that's when they make their play. And I see that for Will Anderson as well. Even without him being physically dominant in terms of his measurables, I don't believe he makes up for it 100% with what his production is. He's unbelievable prospect.
How does this name sound to you? DeMarcus Ware.
Love it. Love it. That's
literally his draft profile comp from Lance Zierlein.
I like that.
And I know PFF comps him to Randy Gregory.
So 2 Dallas Cowboys. Okay.
2 very solid edges. 2 guys that I'm sure any Lions fan would have loved to have had on the Detroit 100%. Lions. This is a target and a reason why the Lions should or could be, as we talked about last night, in the mix for trading up with Arizona.
Yep.
If you want to know what that's going to cost, go watch our video from last night. But if you're going to make a trade up or you're going to make a move out of 6 and go up to get somebody, you are only doing that for one person, and that one person is Will Anderson.
Yes. And he's
nobody else.
He's not like, and it's not a positional thing too. A lot of times, when teams gamble and they want to trade up, it's a positional thing. Oh, we need a quarterback. Oh, we need this position. No. He's in a class of his own because he's not sold on the value of a defensive edge rusher, which is extremely valuable in the NFL. But what he brings as a player is just domination that would translate well in the NFL. Like, he's very quick with his rushes. He has an array of moves. Again, deceptively strong. Like, I don't have any question about how he'll translate, especially not just pass rushing, but run support as well. And if you have the extra resources to still add other defensive tackles around him, it's going to make him and Aiden Hutchinson that much more dangerous. I cannot wait to see what this D-line looks like next season.
I cannot wait either, but we're going to talk about his impact on the Lions right after this. Let's talk to the people about GearUpDetroit.shop.
Let's do that. Hey, Detroit sports fans. Did you know you can rep your favorite team in style without even leaving this page? Gear Up Detroit store is now available right here on YouTube, just below the video you're watching with us right now.
That's right. You can browse through our range of high-quality, unique, and stylish merchandise for all your favorite Detroit sports teams. The Lions, the Tigers, the Red Wings, the Pistons, without missing a single moment of your favorite Detroit sports show beyond the box.
Also, if you want to explore even more awesome swag, you can always visit GearUpDetroit.shop for a full range of tees, hoodies, hats, and more, all designed by very talented local artists.
So gear up for the next game, support local creators, and make a statement with Gear Up Detroit. And remember, you can shop right here on YouTube or visit GearUpDetroit.shop. Now, Eric, what impact would Will Anderson have should he be drafted to the Lions, either falling to 6 or they trade up to 3 to get him? Let's kind of think about the potential impact that a player like him could have opposite Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive front 7.
He's a guy that's going to play right away. For a lot of conversation with a lot of the options of players that could be drafted at 6, outside of a defensive lineman, if you had a cornerback, if they reach for offense, if you reach for a quarterback, they're not going to play right away on this team. He plays immediately if you trade up and go get him, or if he lands in your lap at 6 and you bring him in. He's a guy that's going to play right away. And again, I believe the impact would be immediate given his skill set. I believe we saw a lot of good upside from James Houston, but something tells me, and we talked about it on the live, you said it, he's going to, I believe, be a lot more involved in just in being an outside linebacker as well, not an exclusive rusher, because a lot of his plays that you saw him do, like one of my favorite plays this season was when he sacked Justin Fields. Like, when he was in coverage before he made that play. He was not just rushing off the rip. He was in coverage, and he closed the gap in 3 seconds and brought an open field runner like Justin Fields down. So I believe being able to then add a Will Anderson into that fold, and again, we believe he's the best player in the draft. We believe that his skill set is extremely complementary to what they already have on this D-line, and you would see the other D linemen around him, Kaminsky, Bugs, Hutch, you would see their skill set, their numbers their overall impact take another step forward. And I think that would be huge for what this defensive line needs.
You talk about upgrading the defense, and you've done so in the secondary.
A lot, yes.
Haven't really addressed the defensive line unless names are escaping me. But I mean, you have Hutch, you have Houston, you got Bugs back, which is good. You got Lee McNeil. Unsure if Levi is going to be able to play, so that's a potential problem.
Kaminsky they got back.
Kaminsky they got back as well. So like your defensive line is not terrible. Now we know that the linebacker core is not the best. Probably the weakest part of the unit at this point now, led by Alex Anzalone. They can like him in the locker room. That's great, fantastic. Don't love his play on the field. You add somebody like a Will Anderson who can play a stand-up end, who can play over the tackle, who has played in the B gap. He doesn't get washed down. We watched his highlights last night and saw great shoulder pad level to the parallel with the line of scrimmage. Kept outside leverage great on rushing attacks. Really met mesh points really well and dominated in the SEC, one of the better conferences in America. You cannot discredit the skill and the impact that somebody like that can have opposite Aiden Hutchinson, who was the best defensive player as a rookie last year. Should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year, Eric. I'm never going to let you live that down,
won't let me live off of that. I'm sorry, man.
I will not.
I wanted him to win too. I was there for it.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Don't.
Hutch,
do not
Hutch,
try to change your tune.
You know you ride with me, Hutch.
No, Hutch.
Come on, man.
Hutch, you listen and you listen good, Aiden Hutchinson. Eric said Sauce Gardner should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Your boy AJ, it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine.
The Ohio
AJ,
State fan.
Former, and then got my heart right with Jesus and came over to the right side.
Okay.
Aiden, I had your back. Eric did not.
It's okay. I'm riding with you.
Always
I'm riding with you.
No, you won't. Don't try to butter him up now.
He knows the real.
You literally picked Sauce Gardner over him.
I'm just objective, man.
Loyalty.
I'm objective.
No, you don't have loyalty. We discussed this. We've discussed this previously.
I don't accept it. I don't accept this slander. I don't deserve this.
No, you are distracted by the flash.
No, it's not. But either way. Here, actually, you know what? On that same topic, let me quick pop fly. Would you say right now, what unit group right now would you say is the strength of this Lions defense? Yes.
Right now?
As it's set right now, before the draft, we ain't got to it yet. What would you say is their strong suit? Because I would capitalize off of it, but I just want to see what you think.
Defensive line.
You would say the line is right now?
Their edges.
Really?
I think I don't think the secondary upgrades were good.
Okay.
But they didn't go out and get the best of the best of the best. Like, these guys are good, and they're clear upgrades. But are they the best core of our defense? I don't think so. I know for sure it ain't the linebackers.
Yeah, we agree
We
there.
can't talk about punt returners at that point. So at this point, it's the edge rushers. I mean, when you talk about Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston, they are the best players on that defense right now.
I agree, but I don't think it's a clearing, though. I don't think, because
I also have Aiden's back.
Oh, that's what this is. Continuous shield. But I don't know. I don't think it's a clearing in an easy call that it's defensive line. I mean, adding in, Sutton, bringing in Mosley, bringing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think those upgrades, along with having Jerry Jacobs and Okuda not having to be one of your primary defenders, you can make a case, along with having Tracy Walker back and a second year Kirby Joseph, you can make a case that maybe the quarterbacks or the secondary could be viewed as a strong suit for right now, which is all the more reason to go get somebody like a Will Anderson, because in the NFL, you don't want your secondary to be the strong suit. You just don't. It's good to have talent back there, but your primary focus should be having a strong defensive line, an elite defensive line, if you can put it together.
That's true. And I hope that they do. If they can find a way to go get Will Anderson, it's going to be incredible. You let us know, though, what you think in the comments. Do you want the Lions to trade up and draft Will Anderson? And, I mean, if he's there at 6, they're taking him. And it'll be God's grace that he's there at 6. But what do you think? Let us know. We want to know in the comments, because we're going to transition into talking about those edge rushers that we were talking about, Eric.
Yep.
But before we do that, let's talk to the people about our live draft show, because we have one coming up for you. We know you're excited because we are excited about the draft. And so this live draft show that we're going to do is going to be a treat.
An absolute blast, guys. Please join us for our exclusive 2023 NFL Draft Live Show. Your favorite analysts, AJ, Eric, and Dylan, will all be breaking down each first-round pick as it happens. That's right, we'll be reacting live to all the drama, surprises, jaw-dropping moments of this coming NFL draft.
So we're going to live on Mondays and Thursdays. We want you to be a part of the action. So let us know your thoughts, your reaction, even your predictions when the Lions trade up to draft Will Anderson and we're all celebrating and popping bottles. Let us know live in the comments, because we will react with you as well. This is a chance to have your voice heard, engage with other Lions fans, and your 2 favorite Detroit sports.
That's right.
hosts.
And Aiden Hutchinson's #1 fan right here. So mark your calendars for the 2023 NFL Draft Live Show, April 27th. I'm going to say it again, April 27th, hosted by Detroit Sports Nation. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single second of this epic event on the way.
Be there or
Do
be
that.
square. And as always, go Lions. Now, Eric, let's talk about those edge rushers. You consider them to be the weakest part of the Detroit Lions defense.
Whoa. The blasphemy on the opening gate. Look at you. How dare you?
I can't even say it with a straight face, but here's the reality. They have some decent edge rushers, okay? I'm going to run down a list real quick. James Houston graded out the best, even though he had the least amount of games out of anyone not named Charles Harris last year. Or Romeo Okwara. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, #2 overall pick last year. Charles Harris. John Kaminsky can also play edge. Austin Bryant no longer with the team. Josh Pascal can move outside, inside. Okay, Julian Okwara, Romeo Okwara, and then Anthony Pittman, who played a little bit. Okay. Adding Will Anderson to this group, as we talked about in the previous segment, would make it one of the better groups in the NFL.
Easily.
But you can't just rely on Will Anderson, and you can't just rely on Aiden Hutchinson the entire time. So let's break down here. What are our thoughts going into this draft, and why would someone like an Anderson make sense given who the Lions have?
It would make the most sense because, as you just said, based on what they have, you're good on the brink of possibly being great, where you could just use one more piece. Like, to me, they're in a position where they could go after, and this is just spitballing. Let's say if Khalil Mack wanted to get traded, like if he was on the market
for the fifth
right, exactly.
time.
It's the first name that came to my mind, but just a premier edge rusher that wanted a change of scenery. The Lions could be one of those teams to go after a player like that. This is the better case scenario because you're getting a rookie in this situation. So I believe, based on how they're situated and based on what they do, which again, you see a lot of like one-on-one setups where it's, Hutch, rushing off the edge, but then they do a lot of stunts where they let Hutch stunt for a second. They let Lee McNeil or Bugs or whoever else in the middle eat a double team, and then I've seen Hutch wrap through the middle and then blitz through the A gap off the center.
It's called a twist.
And that worked a lot for them. And having a Will Anderson also gives you the ability to be creative with that. And again, be mindful of what I'm saying. You're being creative with the defensive line. We're not even talking about blitzing. Yeah. So if you are able to get that kind of pressure with just 4 guys or 5 guys, you are putting an elite, maybe not defense, but having an elite pass rush puts you in a completely different conversation in the NFL. And that's what adding a Will Anderson would do for the Detroit Lions.
I think this is like you said, a good bordering on great group.
Yep.
To start. I mean, you talk about Houston, right? He played 7 games last year. Graded out 88 in PFF on his pass rush. In true pass sets, he graded out at a 77, but his win rate went through the roof. He was a 26% win rate in just regular pressure, which 25 is elite in the NFL. When it was a true pass set, so you're talking, 4 wide, single back, shotgun, 5 wide, whatever, his win rate went up to 31%. Hutchinson, on the other hand, he had a 70 pass rush. His win rate was 14.6, which is still good, not elite. Right. But he was also taking all the double teams.
A lot, yes.
Because he was one of the most double-teamed player last season. Not named Myles Garrett, of course. But again, in a true pass set, his win rate goes up to 17%. Obviously, less people available to chip, less people available to double team. But then you get to like Charles Harris, right, who only played 6 games. You get to John Kaminsky, who played 14 games. These guys are good and serviceable, but you're not relying on them to be your starting guys. Those are depth pieces. Kaminsky's a change of pace. You could bring him in and even maybe slide him down the line a little bit like you do with Josh Paschal. Right? Paschal came in, he had an 11% win rate, a 19% win rate in true passing sets. Julian Okwara, his brother, had a 24.1% win rate in true pass sets. So this is a group that can get to the quarterback. It's a group that has no problem getting to the quarterback. They just need to do it a little bit more consistently. Which is why I think you shore up the defensive secondary, which they've done a great job in the offseason doing that. Now you add a little bit of depth to a strength, which I would consider their defensive edges, specifically a strength. I just mentioned that, right? Yep. And that makes your secondary that much better.
It does. And another improvement that they desperately need that would, be catapulted from this D line is against the run. If I'm not mistaken, the Lions finished 29th against the run, and they had some moments where they flashed and played really well. I mean, keeping Saquon Barkley under check the way they did. Some games they limited Dalvin Cook. I know the Jets game they played really well, even though I think one of their guys was injured out of the starting backfield. As long as they don't have a repeat of what we saw against the Panthers, they should be just fine. And when you add in a Will Anderson, who, again, is very good at getting to the quarterback, but having DNs who can help set the edge, which was a big problem to start off the first half of the season for the Lions next year, that's a huge step forward. And again, you're coming in with not just more talent, but now Hutch being a little bit more experienced with, the D-line having a little bit more experience as well, plus more talent next to them. Having that experience and then throwing in a stud like Will Anderson in the mix of all that, again, good on the board of being great. Again, I don't think I haven't heard a trade idea that I don't like yet outside of trading the 2 first-round picks to go get him. But whatever they need to do, I don't want to say whatever they need to do, but please, within reason, go get that man to the Detroit Lions.
Get him to the Detroit Lions because there's one thing that I wanted to read, and I mentioned it last night on the PFF or on the live grade. But I wanted to read this. This is from PFF's draft guide that they have. Okay. And I wanted to read this. Will Anderson, his 207 career pressures are 55 more than the next closest defender over the past 3 years. And his 37 sacks are 10 more. Not only that, his 91.5 run defense grade, which we just talked about, they are a little bit weaker against the run. In that 3-year span, trails only one other person among FBS edge defenders. You know who that number 1 person was in run defense? I said it on the live, so I know that you know,
I know exactly
this.
who it is. It's my favorite edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson. Yes.
But your second favorite defensive player last year.
No, Hutch, I'm riding with you, bro.
He was
9-7. I'm with you.
Now he might be now, but he was not then. The impact that a guy like Will Anderson can have on this specific room, on this edge room, that's a decent, good room, not a great room, gives you over the last 3 years the two best run defending edges in college football. I'd say that's significant.
And let me ask you real quick, because just to make sure people understand, you wouldn't even, let's say Jalen Carter didn't have any of the problems that he had, none of the off the field stuff would be a conversation. You still wouldn't trade up to go get him. Anderson is the only player, and I'm with you on this, but I'm just making sure I'm right. He's the only player on the board that you'd be willing to trade for the Lions at this point.
100%.
Got you.
But I'm doing it within reason, as we talked about on the live.
Yes.
I would not sell the farm. I would not. You don't have to trade pick 18 to get up to 3.
No.
You don't. I just would not. I wouldn't trade for anybody other than him. He is my guy in this draft. If the Lions, walk away with Will Anderson, I literally couldn't care less what happens the rest of the draft.
They could get a tight end next. So
draft a wide receiver at 18. Draft a tight end with the second round pick. Draft a running back with the next one after that. Draft 3 guards and a center. I literally do not care.
Having a game breaker like him just opens up so much. And again, for everything that they've done so far, and again, I don't think they need to put together the perfect, most complete defense they can find. But if you can make your D line as perfect as possible, and adding a guy like him, I can't even imagine having Hutch as a number 2 rusher. But I mean, you could maybe just 1A, 1B, and see what the conversation is from there. But either way, having him in that kind of mix,
it would be a 1A, 1B situation. See, now you're demoting Hutch already.
I'm just saying, it could be either way. You never know.
The title of this clip is going to be Eric hates Aiden Hutchinson.
Don't do that. No, Hutch. You know what? I'm getting a Hutch jersey next time I come in here. I got a Hutch jersey. 9-7. I'm with you.
For now. Until Will Anderson comes, then you become 1B.
Yeah, then you
Aiden.
can have him. Then I'll let you have him.
Listen, Hutch against the run. He was so the first 2 guys that graded out well had less than 200 snaps against the run last year. The first one over 300 is Jeff Okudah. He graded out at 74. The next one's Aiden Hutchinson. Like, he was our best run defender in the front 7.
And outside of us, I don't think he would be the next most happiest person to have Will Anderson on this team. Not having to deal with,
because it's pick your poison.
And I've watched a lot of Hutch's highlights yesterday, and a lot of the sacks he had started off as him taking on the tackle, and then the guard chips over and pushes him out to get that opportunity to either get an edge rush or the quarterback. Now it's just strictly one-on-one where he's getting some of his moves down. He's going to come in stronger next season. Like, you doubling McNeil and leaving those 2 on the island? Oh my goodness. I need it. That
is what I mean, right? It's literally pick your poison. So are you going to double Will Anderson and leave Hutchinson? Are you going to try to chip both of them and not be able to get to the defensive tackles? Like, it literally would be insanity, which is why I'm just like, for the love of everything that's holy, please draft Will Anderson. Do it.
That's what makes the most sense at this
within
point.
Reason. Don't sell the farm. It literally, I mean, you're coming into the draft with no needs. Why not go get the best player in the draft?
It would make more sense to trade up to go get him than take a cornerback at 6 at this point. Like, it makes the most sense. Go get him.
It doesn't even make sense to take a corner at 6 right now anyway.
Like, you can argue against a lot of decisions that they could make. Going to get him, I think, is the most reasonable at this point, honestly.
It is absolutely the most reasonable, and we've got just a few weeks to find out what is actually going to happen. We cannot wait. We have a few live shows coming up with then follow-up shows breaking down those players. We're going to look at the top 5 prospects from Beyond the Box who the Lions could end up with in that first round pick. So you're not going to want to miss our upcoming content. Tonight was all about our guy Will Anderson, who we hope is wearing that Honolulu blue come April 28th. But for now, we're going to just sit back and hope. That's all we can do. And we'll get ready for our next show where we talk about number 2, which you can tune into live Thursday night at 9 o'clock. He's Eric Vincent. I'm AJ Riley. This has been your favorite Detroit sports show, Beyond the Box. We will catch you Thursday night at 9 o'clock.
Peace out, Hutch.